Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, we're going to look at the studio albums, the studio releases, the studio records from the great Welsh heavy band Budgie. Okay? Not a hugely well-known band, and that's like the biggest shame in the history of rock and roll. These guys should have been huge. They should be worshipped by the masses. Another one of those really, really important bands in the history of rock and roll that helped with the formation of what we now know as heavy metal. As heavy as Sabbath, or Zeppelin, or Purple, or Heap, any of those bands. Might even be heavier. Well, I don't know about Sabbath, but close. Really close. In my opinion, probably the heaviest band to come from that early 70s era next to Black Sabbath. All right, just amazingly heavy riffs. Okay, a lot of variety on their albums too. Kind of like Zeppelin in that way, you know. They would mix in these brutally, heavy, lumbering riff rockers with more like kind of like folky, psychedelic type of things, and it just like they had a lot of light and shade on their albums, but some truly epic moments, epic songs, and some really epic albums. So they have records or releases from I believe 1970 or was it 1971, their very first album. The last album was released in 2006. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank the discography, the studio discography, in my order of preference. Your preference may vary, okay, and that's what this is all about. It's all about talking about the albums, the studio albums of Budgie. Which albums do you love and why? And maybe which albums don't you love and why, right? So we're all hearing these different, so we're all going to have different opinions on which ones we like better than the others, how we rank them. So let's get started here on my least favorite. And again, I do want to state, I like all these Budgie albums. There's some that are obviously a lot better than others. There's a couple that are somewhat on the weak side, but still have enough strong material on them to merit recommendations. So I don't think any of these albums suck by any means, all right? So let's get started. So the first one, the bottom of the list for me, is also their last one. And again, there's some good material on here, but it just loses steam like after a couple tracks. I'm talking about You're All Living in Cuckoo Land, okay? Kind of a cool cover there. You got the little yellow Budgie on the front. And right here, you've got Burke Shelley, founding member, bass guitarist, and singer, still in the band. Steve Williams on drums, also drummer for most of their career. And Simon Lees is on guitar and backing vocals on this. Not a bad album. I think if Budgie's going to kind of go out with this, and this was already 14 years ago, not a terrible way to go out. I kind of wish they had one last statement in them, though, because I think this album, kicks off good with Justice and Dead Men Don't Talk. And then, and those are really good tracks. And then it kind of just like, the title track kind of, Tell Me, it's okay. Captain's okay. It just, I don't know. The rest of the album is kind of little on the lightweight side. It tries, all right? It tries. It's just to me, it sounds like Budgie trying to be relevant in the 2000s. And the first couple tracks kick ass, and then the rest of it's just kind of like, it's okay. It's nothing spectacular. So that's going to be the bottom for me. Again, not a terrible album by any means, but just compared to the rest of their discography, All right, next up, I'm going to go with Deliver Us from Evil, which was originally intended to be their last album, okay, for many years, and then they kind of got back together and decided to do something else. And again, it's okay. This was released in the kind of early 80s. Some of those albums that came out like, 80, 81, 82 have that kind of new wave of British heavy metal feel. So it's like the band's trying to move away from their more stomping heavy early days into more of a textured sound, utilizing keyboards and synthesizers and going for pop hooks and things like that, and trying to remain, heavy somewhat and relevant. This is a solid album. Kind of reminds me, if you like some of the new wave of British heavy metal bands like Demon, okay, or Praying Mantis, not that far removed from that. Okay, more hook-laden stuff, a little bit, trying for more mainstream acceptance, not terribly like or similar to the kind of lumbering heavy rock early days of Budgie. Not a bad album, though. Same thing can be said with this one, Nightlight. Great cover art on that, by the way. Again, very new wave of British heavy metalish. I think that there's like a trio of albums there. Their last three before the long break, kind of similar in that, lots more kind of hooks coming into the band. They're trying to, put a little bit more variety into their music and for mass acceptance. But again, very influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal. I Turn to Stone is probably my favorite song on this album. It's a great kickoff track. I don't think the rest of the album is as successful as that. Superstar is a very cool tune. She Used Me Up is great. Reaper of the Glory is a very good tune. Very heavy song. In fact, it reminds me of some stuff from the Power Supply album. But I do like this. All right, here you've got Burke Shelley on bass and vocals. John Thomas is on guitar here. They had a lot of changes of guitar players after Tony Borga, however he says his name, the original guitar player. After he left, they had a lot of different guitar players come and go. Steve Williams also on drums. Next up for me, I'm going to go with Impeccable. Their last album of the 70s. I think this is a solid record, but again, the band's just starting to move away from their classic sound a little bit. Melt the Ice Away, strong track. Pyramids, strong track. Love for You and Me, I also enjoy. A couple other, Don't Dilute the Water, solid. It's not a very heavy album. Okay, again, just more kind of laid back. To me, this is almost like Budgie's Going Steely Dan sort of album. It's not jazzy by any means, but I think the band trying to be a little bit more sophisticated works in spots. Okay, works in spots. Solid album. Not one of their best. Next up, I'm going to go with Power Supply. Another killer cover. This also contains the EP If Swallowed Do Not Induce Vomiting that was released the same year. Got both of them on one. Great tunes. I'm just going to include them all in one here because I think the inclusion of the EP makes this on CD even better. This is a very heavy album, but again, more kind of early 80s metal heavy. Okay, again, I mentioned before about the influence of the new wave of British heavy metal bands that were popping up all over the place. The usual suspects. Okay, Saxon and Iron Maiden and Def Leppard and Demon and Satan and Angel Witch and all the bands, right? I think that Budgie were kind of like they got caught up in that whole movement, all right? And this is a very fast and furious and heavy album. Okay, Forearm Smash. If you've never heard Forearm Smash, go here on YouTube and just Google Budgie Forearm Smash. Awesome song. All right. Hellbender, great tune. Heavy Revolution, Gunslinger, the title track. And then you got from the EP, you got Wildfire, Panzer Division, Destroyed. Great stuff. High School, Lives of Jim. Just top to bottom, very, very cool album. Very different. Again, this Budgie kind of trying to reinvent themselves a little bit. You got Burke Shelley with his high-pitched, almost Geddy Lee-like vocals, right? And really metallic riffing. Good album. I always enjoyed that album. All right, next up. So now we're going to get into all the classic stuff from the 70s, all right? So next up, we're going to go, If I Were Britannia, I'd Waive the Rules. More great cover art. A lot of really cool covers from this band from their discography. Again, the classic lineup here. Ann Negan, great song. The title track is very cool. Again, this album, not quite as heavy as some of its predecessors, but some really strong material on here. Black Velvet Stallion's kind of cool and mysterious. Your Opening Doors, heavy. Quackers and Bureaucrats, just top to bottom, very good album. Okay. Some different elements coming into their music here, but still very good, very good. Then I'm going to go with Bandolier next. This, for me, is probably the last album that contained a handful of drop-dead Budgie classics. I mean, I'm talking drop-dead. Not that there's not killer songs on some of the other ones that came after, but I think this is the album that had kind of, a handful of tracks that are just legendary Budgie. Breaking All the House Rules, Killer, I Can't See My Feelings, Napoleon Bonaparte 1 and 2. I always kind of lump them together because just fantastic stuff. All right. Slip Away, Jeez. Heavy stuff, folks. Heavy, heavy stuff. I was like, it's funny because you saw me looking at the track list real closely there. They had this habit of a lot of really long song titles. And if you're someone who's not really good with song titles anyway, which is me, all right, I remember riffs and melodies and choruses and things like that. And sometimes like song titles just, there's so much music, right? And so many song titles. With Budgie, like so many of their song titles are like a sentence and a half long. So it's just like kind of crazy. But an excellent album. Excellent album. All right. For me now, that last album, so Bandolier and Up, the absolute cream of the discography of Budgie. Next up, I'm going to go with Squawk. Roger Dean cover there. All right. This is a fantastic album. One of their earliest. Whiskey River, Rockin' Man, Make Me Happy, Hot as a Docker's Armpit. Right? What else is on here? Stranded. Young as a Word. Or Young as a World, sorry. Young as a World is great. It's like one of those tunes that has like this kind of like emotional, kind of bluesy, trippy opening, and then the sledgehammer riffing comes in. Bottled, Drugstore Woman. Incredible stuff. Great album. The riffs of Tony early on in this band's history are just amazing. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are pulling up to the front door. It's amazing. You guys ever get the Jehovah's Witnesses coming to your house? They come here all the time. You would think like after like 20 times in a row that I don't answer the door that, maybe he's not home during the day. Because most people do work during the day and go somewhere to work. I happen to work from home. But you would think that they would get the message. All they ever hear is my dog's barking. I never answer the door. And they send different people every single time. So I have Tala in here with me, and the other two are outside. So Tala's going nuts here. Anyway, I'm going to continue on, so don't mind her. Next up, I'm going to go with the self-titled debut. A sledgehammer of an album, signaling the arrival of a super heavy band. All right, Tala, enough, please. What do we got on here? You got Guts. Oh, what a heavy song. Again, another song that you definitely need to hear and listen to if you never have. Go Google Budgie, Guts. Killer. What else we got? The Author. Nude Disintegrating Parachute Woman. Great song. Killer song. Killer riff. Rape of the Locks. Another great song. You and I. Homicidal Suicidal. Just a killer, heavy album. All right. Along with like Sabbath's debut and Deep Purple in Rock and Zeppelin's first two albums and Uriah Heep's first album. One of the unsung heavy albums of the early 70s. I'm telling you. Great. All right. Next up, I'm going to go with Never Turn Your Back on a Friend, which is the shirt that I'm wearing here. Roger Dean. Splendor on the front there. I mean, just get a load of this, people. And I was remiss to show this on my Roger Dean show, this, and of course, this as well, and Squawk as well. I mean, Roger Dean did all three. Tala, enough, please. Just going berserk here. So what do we got on here? You got Bread Fan. Stop. Calm down. You got Bread Fan. You got Baby Please Don't Go. Kind of cool bluesy take on that. What else we got? In the Grip of the Tire Fitter's Hand. Killer heavy track. All right. Parents. Oh, Parents is amazing. Amazing. Bread Fan, of course, also redone by Metallica. Very, very popular song. You're the biggest thing since Powdered Milk. Another killer song. Again, these weird, wacky song titles. But a great album. Great album. But my favorite, that's coming in at number 2, my favorite Budgie album of all time is In for the Kill. This, to me, is their heaviest album. It's just got some just absolutely brutal, heavy rock tunes. Early metal at its best. God, the title track, my favorite Budgie song. Just love it. Come here, please. Just relax. There's nobody here to see you. What else we got? Crash Course in Brain Surgery, another track that Metallica did. The kind of the early days of speed metal, right? Hold on, guys. Get out. You are never going to stop. That's when you have huskies. Let me just tell you guys a little bit something here. If you decide that you want to get a husky, a Siberian husky, one thing you got to understand, they are very stubborn. And once they get something in their head, you can't stray them away from it, no matter how well they're trained or anything like that. So she would have sat here crying to go out and see who's at the front door, even though they're long gone already, until she would just continue to do it because they don't understand time and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's just better to just let her out and go do her thing and realize, hey, there's nobody here anymore, right? Because in here, locked in here, she's like, oh, because the other dogs are still barking out back. Something must still be going on. I got to be there. I got to be there. Anyway, where was I? In for the kill. Zoom Club. Zoom Club. Great song. I'm trying not to say those words, guys. And we've talked about that before. It's like I know some people are bothered, so I'm trying not to. The New Yorker in me, the Italian in me is like we say certain things, and so there's gonna be times I just say it and don't even realize it. So what are you gonna do? Hammer and Tongs. All right, Living on Your Own. Wondering What Everyone Knows, top to bottom. Killer songs, but again, that kind of real cool mix of sledgehammer heavy songs with kind of more like introspective, kind of moody things, all right? And then you got the songs that like start off moody and slow, and then the amazing riffs come in. Just killer, a killer band. I do want to mention, I didn't include it in my list here because it's kind of a compilation. It's not, it's kind of like a leftovers and things unused and things like that. But I want to give mention to the last stage. I almost included it because a good chunk of what's on here were recordings that were eventually going to be the follow up to this album, to the Deliver Us from Evil album. But then they got scrapped and the band kind of just that was that. So the last stage got a couple tunes from the leftovers, B-sides from like 79 and 80, and then a whole bunch of tracks that were they were working on for another new album in various stages, and it just in the end they just wound up not putting it out. But some solid stuff on here, worth getting if you're new to the Budgie discography and you kind of want to scoop everything up after all the studio albums. This kind of slots in pretty well next to like the early mid 80s stuff. Okay. And it's worth checking out. So let me go. Oh boy, I think I just hold on here. All right, so let's go back and recap my list. So coming in at number 1, In for the Kill. Coming in at number 2, Never Turn Your Back on a Friend. Coming in at number 3, Budgie, Self-Titled. Coming in at number 4, Squawk. Coming in at number 5, Bandolier. Coming in at number 6, If I Were Britannia, I'd Waive the Rules. Britannia. Coming in at number, where was I? I lost track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to go with Power Supply. Coming in at number 8, Impeccable. Number 9, Night Flight. Number 10, Deliver Us from Evil. Number 11, we're going to go You're All Living in Cuckoo Land. All right, so there you have it. If you go and check out a lot of these studio albums and you really dig what you're hearing, they do have a couple really good kind of live at the BBC double live albums that you can get that were released kind of much later on. They have recordings from various stages in the band's career, early, mid-70s, later 70s, early 80s, that sort of thing. Worth getting. All right, worth getting, decent quality and what have you. So a lot of cool Budgie stuff. A great band, and in my opinion, an unsung band that should have been absolutely enormous. And I think it's a band I keep preaching about because I think more people who like heavy metal and 70s hard rock and early metal and have never listened to Budgie, it's like I heard the name, but I never listened to them. Well, you need to. Trust me on that. You need to. So go check out any. You can't go wrong with any of the albums, but I would say the top like 5 or 6 you definitely need to go listen to. Definitely need to go listen to. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on the mighty YouTube all the damn time. We'll see you guys real soon. Don't touch that dial because we've got. I'm going to rank the albums, the studio albums of Lynyrd Skynyrd. All right. So we'll see you then. Take care. Bye bye.